Why do so many experts believe Dylan Harper was the perfect pick to pair with Victor Wembanyama? Taken second overall in the NBA draft, Harper brings elite 3-level scoring ability and pick-and-roll savvy, skills that could unlock a whole new level for the Spurs' generational big man. Today, we're breaking down the film to show you exactly why Harper might just be the perfect complement in San Antonio's next great duo. So stick around, you won't want to miss how this pairing could shape the future of the Western Conference. Now, before we get into specifics on the game film, I wanted to give you a little overview of his season at Rutgers last year. He was an electric scorer, averaged nearly 20 a game, was well-rounded on the court, contributed on the glass, contributed with his passing, and overall, from a percentages standpoint, was pretty efficient. And we'll get into some more of that right now with the film. Now, when I watch Dylan Harper's film and then go back and look at the stats, the first thing that just jumps off the page to me completely is his ability to dominate in the pick-and-roll game. Not only can he stretch the floor and shoot the three off of these a little bit, but getting to the rim, he's really effective. And we'll talk more about that later on in the video. But overall, from a stats perspective, when you talk about the amount of time he spent as a pick-and-roll ball handler, there's about 166 possessions last year where he did that. And he averaged about 0.94 points per possession, which overall is very good and puts him in the top 80th percentile of that metric. And when you consider the volume that he had there, it's also really solid. Now, from a shooting percentage perspective, he shot about 50% from the field when he was in a pick and roll situation. From three, he was about 30%, which isn't great, but he was taking some difficult shots there. But overall, when you just watch him play, he blends two things together very well. One is he's extremely patient. He knows the gaps to attack, and he reads that big man coming off the pick and roll exceptionally well. And that's the first responsibility of a point guard in the situation, is to understand where he's being given things and how to exploit that. And you have to love how he could fit with Wemby there. Now, I want to talk about Dylan Harper as a shooter, and I feel like it's really important because when I look at all the other scouting breakdowns on him, people tend to question his shooting ability. And I think that's fair based on the statistics, but I think when you dive a little deeper, there's a lot of reasons for optimism about him growing into an above-average shooter. And when I look at the stats, I see that when he shot really guarded catch-and-shoot looks, he shot about 26%. Not that great. When you look at him shooting unguarded looks, he was about 50%, which is a ton better, right? And then overall, when you just take it into account catch-and-shoot looks in general, he was at 37%. So for him, his jump shot looks fine, and it's a little bit of a push on it, but you can live with that. Now, I think he's somebody that on the NBA level, you can think that with talent surrounding him and creating more space for him on the perimeter, he's going to be in better situations to catch clean looks. And when you talk about him running a pick and roll with Victor Wembanyama, it's going to cause the defense to really have to pick their poison, and I think that's going to play into his hands really well and set him up for a ton of success on the NBA level, so it's something to watch out for. Now, undoubtedly, what's going to get you most excited about Dylan Harper as a prospect is his ability to be an absolute beast at the rim. So last year, he had 250 points scored at the rim by itself, and that's on 179 attempts. That's a wild stat for a full season of college basketball where he is a known commodity where people are trying to actively stop that. You throw on top of that the efficiency that he had around the rim. He shot 67% while at the rim, which is absurd. And then on top of that, you look at the points per possession, which puts him in a unworldly 86th percentile at the rim. Had some athleticism to be able to finish at the rim over people, could go through contact with some strength. And then on top of all of that, he is not just someone that relies on athleticism because he's not a top-end athlete type of guy, but the craftiness that he has is also really good. And then the last thing I'm going to add on this is I feel like he uses his size really well and knows the type of defender he's going against. So if a big helps, he can change his finish. If it's a small guard, he seals them off and goes through them. It's amazing to see. Now, the last area of his game that I want to talk about is his ability to be a facilitator and a passer. It's another spot where analysts in general give him a bit of a knock, but for me, I don't view it in the same way as many. I think his role last year at Rutgers was to be a scorer, was to be a guy who pairs with Ace Bailey and tries to overwhelm teams and dominate games with their scoring ability. But you still, when you watch the film and see the type of assists he's getting, I think it suits him well to grow into more of a facilitator role in the NBA. because he is a very patient passer. He accepts double teams well, keeps his eyes open, and is able to deliver really timely and accurate passes to guys who are in good positions. So going forward, I think it's an area of his game that could certainly expand once he gets surrounded by more talent and sees his role shift naturally. So as I start to put together my final thoughts on Dylan Harper as a prospect and his fits with the Spurs, I'm left with a couple of key takeaways. First and foremost, I am higher on Dylan Harper than probably the analysts' projection as a whole, and they're already pretty high on him. And I've talked about it as we went through the highlight clips, but there are parts of his game that I feel like are getting knocked for short-sighted reasons. First and foremost, people say, "Oh, he's a good athlete and not an elite athlete," and I think that's perfectly fine for me because when you look at how he uses his athleticism, he's really great at exploding when he has the room to do so. He's good at going through people. He uses his size, which is a plus kind of size, to his advantage. And on top of that, he makes really good decisions when he has the ball. Like people want to talk about his passing ability. I know we just talked about that in the last segment, but people love to say, oh, his assist numbers weren't all that great at Rutgers. And to me, that's a so what type of comment. Like, so what his assist numbers weren't that good. You look at the film, you watch him as a passer, and he was able to feed Ace Bailey. He was able to feed other talent that they had there. But that wasn't the role that they tasked him with. They brought him in to be a scorer that's going to try to overwhelm teams. And he did that. He averaged 20 points a game. He against good competition, he was elite at what you asked him to do. And I don't see that changing once he gets to San Antonio and you're surrounding him with other pieces. If anything, his role is going to change a bit, and that's completely fine. Now, the other area that I want to touch on is San Antonio does have some good guards on their roster right now. That's a fact. De'Aaron Fox is pretty good. Stephon Castle had a very promising rookie year last year. But when I look at Dylan Harper, he does things that I think are a bit of an amalgamation of those other two pieces. Like, I am so excited to watch Harper Wembanyama pick and roll, and we talk about them being a dynamic duo. I just think that the position you're putting defenses in with that particular set is going to be really hard to guard because Harper's going to be so good getting to the edge and crafty around the rim and maybe hitting a weak side shooter. And then you throw into that mix, you have a 7-3 monster in Wembanyama who's either going to be able to pop off of that or roll to the rim. And what are defenses going to choose to do? That's going to be so interesting for me to see. I think also you look at just the areas that Harper will be able to impact the game and not necessarily have to be your traditional primary ball handler, point guard, whatever you want to call it. I think he's going to be someone that steps in and can do so many things well that you can find minutes for him. You don't have to shoehorn him into a role. He can play alongside a De'Aaron Fox and be effective. Because we talked about his shooting numbers. I think personally that if you take a Dylan Harper and you're getting situations where De'Aaron Fox is able to get paint touches and kick it out to where he's getting a more or a less contested jump shot, then he's going to shoot a much higher percent. I walked through his numbers in the video, but when he was unguarded, he shot 50%. When he's at the free throw line, he was a 75% shooter. So for me, that all screams that if we get this guy more quality looks, his overall efficiency is going to rise with that. Now, I think ultimately he's somebody that I could see if Cooper Flagg wasn't in the league next year. Dylan Harper to me is a easy favorite for Rookie of the Year. I think he checks so many boxes. He's going to walk into an opportunity in San Antonio where he's going to be on a good team or what should be a good team next year and be able to have a measurable impact. Now, when you look at San Antonio as a whole, right, let's start talking about them as a championship contender in the next 5 to 7 years. I think you're starting to see those building blocks come into place. Now, for me, I look at it as what are the check boxes that you need to be a bona fide contender, someone that can win an NBA championship. And I think there's a few things, and they've checked off the first box. They have a bona fide star in Victor Wembanyama. When healthy, he does things on the basketball court that there is no one else in the NBA that can do. And that, to me, is the prerequisite for winning a title, right? Like, and even looking at Oklahoma City last year, they maybe don't have that guy, but Shea is as close as you could get to being there without being there, right? But Wembanyama's already there. Now you look at the secondary pieces. You need guys who can do other things really well. and you need probably a secondary star. And that's maybe where you're looking at their roster right now and saying, I don't really see where that is. But then you look at the pieces, like a De'Aaron Fox is kind of close to being in that area, but a Dylan Harper has all of the potential to step in and be that secondary star that you need in order to win and win big. So I think that as a franchise, it's a really opportunistic place for them to be right now. They're able to pick up somebody who's really solid and can take that next step and make that leap. And then you have pieces like a Stephon Castle around them who maybe they fit into the plan and you can get all these guys the minutes that they need, or you might have some trade potential where they can make some moves to strengthen other parts of their roster. But overall, I couldn't be more optimistic and bullish about the San Antonio Spurs and what they've done. And specifically, I could not be more bullish about the potential fit between Dylan Harper and Victor Wembanyama. I think it just makes too much sense for me. And I just absolutely love the pick. Now, Spurs fans, this is where I'm going to ask you for some feedback. Let me know where I'm right, where I'm on the right track, what I have correct. But then let me know where I'm wrong. If I'm overlooking something, I'd love to hear it. I love having comments in the discussions in the comment section to understand the Spurs basketball dynasty a little bit better, because I don't live and breathe it every day like some of you guys do. So there's intricacies I'm sure that I'm not aware of. But I would love to continue this conversation in the comments below. Feel free to drop one. I'll reply back to as many as I can. Also, thank you for being here. This is a huge pet passion of mine. I live and breathe basketball. I played it in college. I coach it now. And I just love having in-depth basketball conversations. So if you have a second or you want to be a part of this community, feel free to subscribe. It helps me out, helps you stay in touch with some of the content I'm putting out there. This is part of a bigger series as Summer League keeps going. I'm going to keep pumping out some videos on draft prospects. I just had one on Cedric Coward about a week ago. And we'll do some other fun stuff too. But if you want to be a part of the community, like I said, I would love to have you. So again, I hope you got something out of this. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.